Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jadley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you're joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever you find your podcasts. We have two great guests today. They are the team that created Help Mom Work From Home. We'll be meeting Diana Murray and Lori Doerfeld. Before we invite Diana and Lori into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by The Secret Science of Sports, a fantastic book written by our Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson. Why does a football spiral? How do some athletes jump so high? The answer is science. And The Secret Science of Sports helps kids better understand concepts of science, technology, engineering, and math through the sports they love to play and watch. Every sport, from baseball to basketball, from football to soccer, to wrestling, tennis, and lacrosse, involves a bit of science, technology, engineering, and math. This fantastic book can help your kids develop an interest, a curiosity, and a love of the STEM fields. And we absolutely love that our friend Jennifer Swanson has brought this book to life. What a great way to experience the upcoming Winter Olympics. Check it out today. It's The Secret Science of Sports by our Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson. Joining us right now from the state of New York and the state of Minnesota. Our guests today are the author and illustrator of Help Mom Work From Home. Please welcome to the show the author Diana Murray and the illustrator Cori Doerfeld. Hey, Diana, Cori, how are you both?
Hi. Great. Happy to be here.
I was going to say that first voice, but these two are in like total sync. So first, Diana, why don't you let everybody hear what your voice sounds like?
Hi, Diana here.
All right.
From New York.
And then Cori up in Minnesota.
Yes, hi, this is Cori coming from Minnesota.
Awesome. Why don't we start with you, Diana? Can you tell us what Help Mom Work From Home is all about?
It is about, it was inspired by, at the very beginning of the pandemic, I was trying to keep myself busy and sort of lift my mood a little bit, which always the best thing for that for me is writing. So I was trying to think, what project can I work on next? And I had always wanted to try a sort of how-to parody, like in the vein of how to babysit your grandma, or is your buffalo ready for kindergarten? Like that sort of thing written in second person. So I just started brainstorming ideas. And the one that really struck a chord with me was Help Mom Work From Home, which made me remember a couple years back, I had posted a photo on Facebook of me working from home with my daughter perched on my shoulders, kind of looking over my shoulder as I was working on my laptop. And I remembered everyone thought it was very funny and sort of related to it. And so remembering that and then thinking, wow, that must be becoming so much more common now with the pandemic. That was like the very beginning of it. So I thought, and as soon as I started writing it, it just started pouring out. So I knew that was the idea that I would go with. So that's what it came out of. And it's just it's written in second person from the perspective of the child, how to help your mom work from home. And so, of course, what the text is saying is, plays off of what's in the illustration, because, the text might say, help your mom look like a pro and then the illustration shows the kid helping her do her hair, helping in quotation marks, because, she has this crazy hairstyle, which my kids used to do that all the time. And on the one hand, it made my hair look crazy, but on the other hand, I was so happy that they were just busy for 10 minutes so that I could get something done. So I just wanted to bring out that whole interplay of how when you're working from home, it's very difficult and it can drive you crazy, but at the same time, there are always a lot of laughs and you make these lasting memories and it brings you closer together in a way. So I wanted to capture that. And I immediately thought of Cori Doerfeld for the illustrations because I felt like her illustration style is so warm and the expressions are so emotive, but it's also really humorous. So it felt like a perfect combination. And so I was so excited that she was actually able to do it. I just gave her name as a suggestion and the publisher agreed that she would be perfect. And so, yeah, that's basically the story behind it.
Awesome. And Cori, this must have been a project that was near and dear to your heart. You were sharing with us before we started that you're in the midst of working from home and setting up appointments and all that other kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Just like Diana, I am a mom who works from home. It's actually something I decided to do, even though it was crazy. I actually got pregnant right at the same time I got my very first illustration job. And so it was kind of just this decision to go for it because I really wanted to be home with my daughter and I really wanted to be an illustrator. And so I've been juggling both from day one. I actually have a photo of me holding my newborn daughter at Barnes & Noble when the book actually came out. But it's been amazing because juggling both things has actually shaped me as an illustrator. I used to hand paint all my illustrations. Kids don't really let you do that. They interrupt you a lot. The paint dries. It was very frustrating. And so I had to learn to work digitally. I had to learn to be more flexible. I learned to kind of merge the things, like be inspired by my kids and what they do, but also separate them. So like if I'm with my kids, I really try to be with my kids. If I'm illustrating, I tried to find a time that was really just for that. But yes, absolutely. This story spoke straight to my heart and pretty much what my life has been like for the past 13 years. So it was really a delight to work on it and kind of bring all those little moments to life that work at home parents get to enjoy each and every day.
Yeah. Well, I think it's obviously something that a lot of people were thrown into and unexpectedly back in March of 2020. And it was only supposed to be for a couple of weeks, but here we are 20 months or so later, and many of us are still doing it. And I think a lot of people who were kind of thrown into it have decided that they're going to stay working at home, if not full-time, but for a lot more than they had before the pandemic. Cori, you were mentioning something about finding that balance. And what was the secret to finding the balance for you?
I wish there was a perfect secret. When my kids were babies, it was drinking lots of coffee and staying up late. So I didn't have any help. I didn't have money to send them anywhere for anyone else to watch them. So I was with them all day. And then as soon as they went to bed, I had a hard bedtime, 7:00, then I would work. I would work at night. And then obviously if there was like a very special day that maybe my sister could watch them, I mean, I would take that. But my career kind of took a stall for a while, and I had to learn to just embrace that maybe things were not in my control. I couldn't make things happen always when I wanted to. And it was just kind of learning to embrace that chaos and go with the flow. And then preschool was the best. When they were finally old enough to go to the little community preschool, I remember it was just amazing how much more work I could get done. So it's almost even also remembering and appreciating it's a small window of time that they're really so little that they might actually, I don't know, like be in the way. I don't want to say be in the way, but they're going to need you more because now my kids are older and independent. And yes, I still got to juggle things, but it's not the same. So yeah, find the balance. You got to separate it, but also embrace it. That's what I would say.
Diana, do you agree that learning how to embrace the chaos is really helpful?
That's such a great way to put it. As like Cori was saying, it goes by so fast. And so even though it's frustrating, when they try to do things by themselves and it kind of makes things worse rather than making them better. It's something that you always remember, and it touches your heart. Like when they make you that little squished cake out of Play-Doh, to cheer you up, you can't help but smile. And, so I agree with Cori.
Yeah. One of the things that I definitely embraced as I was a dad, my kids are now adults and they're pretty wonderful adults and I'm really proud of them. But it was just that whole idea of putting them first, I think was, the work was important and you wanted to get the work done, but also putting your kids first. It was hard, and it meant that maybe you had to stay up later at night after they went to sleep to do the work that you weren't able to do while you were putting them first. But in the long run, it's something that I was really happy that I was able to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, it's so from the child's perspective, even though they make a lot of mistakes and a lot of messes along the way, that's part of their learning process.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I feel like one of the best things from a kid's perspective is being able to help their parents feel like they're really helping. It makes them feel so important. And I feel like it really, helps their self-esteem. And it's just, even from their perspective, it has so many benefits.
I know, Cori, one of the things that I was surprised about when my kids were younger and we would have their friends over for whatnot, and I was the Uber driver, the chauffeur, my schedule was a little bit more flexible than most parents. I was really surprised at how many kids had no ideas of what their parents did. And working from home gives your kids a real good glimpse of what it is you're doing or not doing.
That is very true. I do know what my dad does, but it's still also kind of a mystery.
Does he work for the CIA or something?
Well, no. It's a machine shop, a tool and die machine shop. But what I was going to add is my kids, yes, they saw what I did, and they're also both great artists, but it doesn't always make them appreciate what you do, because my kids, I'll do school visits, and other people's kids are so excited when they see me like draw something or talk about what I do, and my kids are just like, meh, yeah, whatever. You got another book coming out? Okay, well, whatever. So I think that's kind of funny that when it's, you have a job that's kind of cool. Your kids are they could still just be like, meh. But I'm always like, when you're older, I think you're going to maybe appreciate it. If they ever really figure it out. I feel like I should call my dad and say, Dad,
what are you
tell
doing?
me all about your work.
Well, I know when my kids were growing up, there oftentimes when I would be doing my magic show in a school, kids would say, "Oh, must be so cool! You must be the coolest dad in the world. You're so crazy. You're running around." And I would always have to think, do you think that this is how I act at home, pulling stuff out of my different parts of my bodies? And
that's really funny.
Yeah.
Well, I do actually draw at home as well, so I have to say I am kind of the same. I'm kind of the same at a school visit, and at home I'm just appear more amazing to these other kids, where my kids at home are just like, yeah, whatever, another drawing in my lunch, thanks Mom. But
now, Diana, you told me that there was something special about Cori's style that you thought was really perfect for this book. How did you first become aware of Cori, and was it by working together on another book?
We were together in a debut group on Facebook. Sometimes authors and illustrators get together to form these groups so that they can kind of support each other and help spread the word about upcoming books. So we were together in one of those groups, and that's how I first met her. and became familiar with her style. And it just sort of popped in my head when I was writing that I thought it would be a good match. Because it was also one of the first times I typically I write a lot about magic and fantasy or animals and things like that. And I really wanted this time to try to write something about real life. And I feel like a lot of her illustrations that I saw speak to that, capture that family dynamic really well. So, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Cori, you've worked with a number of different authors. Do you find that your illustrations, your style of illustrating, changes from author to author, or is it pretty consistent?
I feel that it changes, but I know other people always say, I can always tell you made it. But I do feel like each author has their own voice. And so I try to reflect that in the art, just the way you would pick like a certain kind of font or any kind of design. It's hard to put into words, but there's just like a vibe that seems to line up. And so I try very much to think about that. Like, what is the vibe of this story? And then make the illustration fit it, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like if it does need to be, more realistic or more cartoony, or even the way I color it in, does it need to kind of feel more graphic, or does it need to feel more soft? So I do try, but it's hard. It's hard when you're the one making the art to tell how different it looks. But to me, yes, I do try, but I think other people sometimes, I don't know, they're like, oh, I always know it's you. But yes, I definitely try, and I do think about it when I'm, making the different illustrations.
Diana, how much we've talked here on the show with other authors in the past, and how much they collaborate, how much they communicate with the illustrators is really varies. Did you have a lot of ongoing communication with Cori as the project was coming together?
No, I wouldn't say ongoing communication, but in the original manuscript, I did put a few illustrator notes, and they were very brief and only, in spots where I really thought it would help make things clear. Like, for example, when in the text it says you can hire an assistant, I wrote in parentheses cat, just to be clear that I meant, what I meant by the assistant, mm-hmm. How it would be represented in a funny way. And then there were a lot of spots where I just left it wide open because I knew that Cori could think of something, amazing that I probably wouldn't even think of. For example, when I said you can help your mom gather important supplies, and her version of important supplies was, wooden blocks and dinosaurs. So that really cracked me up because I would have never thought of that. It wasn't really super collaborative, and the publisher did share with me, sketches as they were coming along in case I had any feedback and stuff like that. But so, it was a little bit collaborative, I guess I should say.
Hey, Cori, from an illustrator's point of view, like I said, we do have lots of authors who listen to the show. Many of them are self-published or published with a hybrid. Diana mentioned giving you some very, very simple illustrator notes, just really just a little idea. What's the best kind of note that you receive? Do you ever receive notes that are like 2 or 3 pages long and you think, just leave me alone and let me do my job?
I don't get those because luckily an editor will usually take that all out for me. So there's that little step in between the author and the illustrator. But I really think Diana did it perfectly because when she wrote the story, I wasn't whispering in her ear nonstop, like, you should change that word or you should do that. So I feel like it's trusting each other. Like I trusted her to write her manuscript. She's going to trust that I will create art that fits it. But if there are things that are truly not clear, like she meant the assistant to be a cat, like that's very helpful. Or if there's a specific place or if there's a specific person or something that just the author really needs to communicate that wouldn't be clear just through the words, I feel like that's very helpful. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, I think it's great to have trust in your editor to find an illustrator that will know exactly how to interpret your words. And I also think a good illustrator, if there isn't something, or if something isn't clear, would then go back and ask the editor to ask the author, or could, clarify it down the road. But I really think you should let your words say what you want to say as an author, and then the illustrator will take care of the drawings. Because I think sometimes authors get stuck to, when you're making all the author notes, it might actually take away from your story because you think you're relying on that, is what I'm trying to say. You might be relying on that, when if you take them away, you'll see maybe actually what your words could be missing, because the story should, in my mind, still be very clear without those illustrations. Like, you should read it, and it's a story. And so that's a tip I would say, is like, read through it, read it to someone else. Did they understand it? And if not, think about that. It's a helpful thing to do, is to think about, I don't know, how you can make it clear in your words.
One of the things I wanted to ask both of you is, and I'll ask Diana first. Diana, is there a project that you're looking to do, something that's very different from what you've done in the past, that you hope to be able to do at some point in the future?
Well, I always, every time I brainstorm, I always try to do something a little bit new, a little bit different from what I've done before. Like in this case, it was writing an instructional manuscript as a kind of parody. But for the future, I've always kind of wanted to try a novelty book, like something that has pages that you can flip open, or I think Cori actually has a very popular one that she illustrated where you put your fingers through the little holes, something like that. And I've never tried that, but I've always thought those were so cool and always kind of wanted to try it.
Awesome. And what about you, Cori? Is there something, a style that you'd like to illustrate, or a really kind of different book that you'd love to illustrate? Or are you thinking about writing a book sometime?
Well, I have written many books. So, but I would like to maybe try a longer format. So everything I've done has been a picture book for the most part. So when I ever have the time and the energy, I would love to actually try maybe doing something more like a graphic novel for maybe middle grade, and tell a longer story. Because picture books are great, but they kind of stay within a very narrow realm and set of characters. And so it'd be really fun to go a little bit farther out and maybe do something longer. And like I said, more like a graphic novel where I could get more into a story and into who characters are. And I think it'd be really fun.
Cool.
So
awesome. Well, I know people want to know where they can go to find out more about Help Mom Work from Home and find out more about both of you. So Diana, first, where can folks find you online?
My website is dianamurray.com, and pretty much all the information is there, where to buy it, more information about reviews on the book and different interviews. So.
Excellent. And Cori?
Yeah.
Very similar. I just have a website, CoriDoerfeld.com. And if you want to follow me, I'm probably the most active on Instagram, and that's just at Cori Doerfeld. Hopefully you guys can figure out how to spell it. It's a little different, but there aren't many Cori Doerfelds out there.
It will be in the show notes. We've had a great time speaking to the author and illustrator of Help Mom Work from Home, Diana Murray and Cori Doerfeld. My friends, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It was great. Thank you so much.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest would be Deborah Kemp Shoemaker. She'll be here to celebrate her amazingly fun rhyming book. It's called Freaky Funky Fish. This really is a wonderful book. You don't want to miss our conversation. Hey, if you're the author of a fantastic children's book, you may be frustrated at just how difficult it is letting the world know about it. Well, we can help you. The Reading with Your Kids podcast has a number of different ways we can help you celebrate your book. All you need to do is to go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the author's Click Here button to find out how you can be a guest on the podcast. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, it doesn't cost a thing. and it gives you the chance to tell thousands of people about your fantastic children's book. You can also submit your book to our Certified Great Read panel. And if they believe that your book is worthy of 4 or 5 out of 5 stars, it becomes a Certified Great Read, letting parents know that your book is worthy of their consideration. You can also take part in our monthly promotion program, which will celebrate your book through commercials on the podcast, to messages to our 65,000 plus social media followers, and we'll have your book displayed on our nationwide network of digital pedestrian billboards. Learn all about that at readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Authors PK button at the top of the page and scroll on down to the various services. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to start by thanking our guests, Diana Murray and Lori Doerfeld. Please be sure to check out Help Mom Work From Home. Also want to thank our sponsor, The Secret Science of Sports, by our Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson. Also want to thank my team, Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady. Want to thank my beautiful wife for all her support, but most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.